been a lot of rumors circulating the internet about a Switch successor and whether or not it's going to release soon or next year, or maybe they won't release it at all. But now there are new reports coming out saying that it is set for early 2025, and I'm a little bit skeptical. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. Now, I know a lot of people have been very skeptical of whether or not this Switch successor or the Switch 2 is going to finally release. We've heard a lot of conflicting reports over the past couple of years, but now Ars Technica is putting out this report saying throughout 2023, we saw multiple credible reports that Nintendo was planning to release its long-awaited Switch follow-up sometime in 2024. Now, a new flurry of reports say third-party developers have recently been advised that Nintendo's next console is aiming for an early 2025 release, and I think that right off the bat, this is pretty ridiculous. At this point, when it comes to Nintendo, I'm sick of people claiming to be industry insiders that are giving us information and, these multiple credible reports, because it's quite clear that no matter who they think they are, no one should trust them. Okay, the only source you can trust on information about Nintendo is clearly Nintendo itself. So if it's not an official press release at this point, I don't think that we should listen. It has been years of Super Switch, Switch Pro, Switch 2, and we've only gotten the OLED, and while the OLED is really good, don't get me wrong, we were told about it July 6th, 2021, and it released October 8th, 2021, so that's 3 months of hype, and that was a decent amount of time, and all of the, Nintendo Directs, it's constantly news about those as well. They, of course, only really get announced a few days before they happen, but people constantly are predicting those as well. Basically, at the beginning of every new month, there's someone saying, this month there's gonna be a Switch Direct, this month there's gonna be a Nintendo Direct, and while yes, it is exciting to think that maybe this month we're gonna get some big new announcement, or oh hey, we might get the announcement of the next Switch iteration or the Switch's successor, at this point there's really no credible sources putting out credible reports because they're almost always wrong. It says, though, a journalist was among the first to report on the new planned release window on Friday, and Video Games Chronicle expanded on that report the same day. The outlet cited its own sources in reporting that third-party game companies were recently briefed on an internal delay in Nintendo's next-gen launch timing from late 2024 to earlier the following year. The point here, okay, is that we need to stop listening to what Nintendo is doing unless it's from Nintendo. All the supposed insiders and credible sources aren't right, so that means they're not credible. So yes, all right, we might not get it until 2025, but we don't even know when in 2025 if that'll happen or when it will happen, because it says here March 2025 at the earliest. Of course, for me, this is disappointing news because I want a new Switch or a new Nintendo console to come out. I'm a big fan of the Switch. I own the base Switch. I own the OLED. I think that it's great, and I think that they do put out a lot of good games. But, a disappointing part to all of this news is that there are very few first-party titles coming out from Nintendo this year. So at this point, first-party development could be held back by Nintendo, and whatever they're working on, they might be pushing for those, to release on the next system, and not this one, because, again, there's only really 3 first-party titles left on the release schedule, and that's Princess Peach Showtime, which is the only one that's not a remake, and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD remake, then Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, and that's a remake. And of course, with the information in mind that it's going to be a quiet 2024, it seems, for first-party titles, and also when it comes to the consoles, it seems like Nintendo is pretty confident they can bank on their existing library and the popularity of the system. I'm sure they're expecting lower numbers for 2024, but they know that they're still going to sell their system and they're going to sell games. And there's a lot of Switch games that have sold. And it seems like, one thing a lot of people are going to want is clearly backwards compatibility. But the length of time we're looking at for the actual release of the Switch 2 doesn't bode very well for it being compatible, because it seems like, and I'm just speculating, that they're trying to put some distance between their first party releases for the Switch and the Switch 2, with the lack of games being slated to come out. So that when, their next generation system comes out in 2025, they can market it as a brand new product separate from the Switch, because they felt as though they had that separation of time where they weren't releasing anything of consequence. Now, I don't want that to be true. I want their next gen system to be compatible with Switch 1 games, seeing as how successful I think that backwards compatibility has been for Sony and Microsoft, but I don't know. Only time will tell to see if Nintendo cares to do that, and the drought of Nintendo releases doesn't give me a lot of hope, but I really do hope that I'm wrong. There's a lot of speculation. These reports are coming out. I personally would not believe any of this speculation at this point, just given that we're constantly hearing speculation about Nintendo's plans and the Switch and just the next generation system that is supposedly going to come out in 2025. Only time will tell. I will definitely be keeping my eye on this, but for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, and I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.